fur on again, boy. Boy, I see you, boy. Abigail, I need you to go sit down. All right, so we give praise, esteem, and honor to the Most High God in the name of Yahweh HaMashiach this day. Get John 5:39. Search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life, and there they which testify of me, and you will not come to me that you might have life. I receive not honor from men, but I know you, that you have not the love of Elohim in you. I come in my Abba's name, and you receive me not. For another shall come in his own name, him you will receive. How can you believe and receive honor one of another, and receive not the honor that comes from Elohim only? Not that I will accuse you to Abba, there is one that accused you, even Moses, on whom you trust. For had you believed Moses, you would have believed me, for he wrote it. If you believe not his writings, how shall you believe my words? Proverbs 14:28. On down, little. You got some slides too, huh? Let me see. They're very nice. So the kids slide. Slides for kids. Do you like them? Sit back on the floor. Monte will come back. Proverbs 14:28 says that the multitude of people is the king's honor, but the want of people is the destruction of the prince. Now, we talked about in the want of the people being destruction of the prince on Wednesday, but now we're going to continue what we discussed about in the multitude of the people is the king's honor. But I want you to take a trip to the book of Esther first. I need what you want. I want you to be a friend with. I want you to be a friend with being quiet. That's what I want you to be. I'm talking to Michael. He knows exactly who I'm talking to. I want to say Esther chapter 5. Let me see. Yeah, let me check. 5 is. It might be chapter 4. Hey, if y'all can't sit right there and be quiet, it's going to be a problem for all of you because there's a lot of corners in this house, and I can assign each of you one. Would you like that? No. Would you like to be assigned a corner for you to stare in for the duration of service? No. Then I suggest that you follow instructions and you follow them to a T, and you follow them from the heart, because the next time I have to speak, there will be consequences. Do we understand? Roll your eyes again at me, boy. I'm going to slap him out your forehead. There we go. It's Esther chapter 4 that I desire. I want you to pick this up probably at about verse 6, if you would. Esther chapter 4 and verse 6. Leah, put that toy down. Both of them. Matter of fact, take them to your mom. That yours, Abigail? These toys are yours? They Malia's? And who they belong to? What? We'll take it and go put it up. Your mother. So Hatak went forth to Mordecai into the street of the city, which was before the king's gate. Mordecai told him of all that happened unto him and of the sum of the money that Haman promised to pay to the king's treasuries for the Yahudim to destroy them. He gave him the copy of the writing of the decree that was given at Shushan to destroy them, to show it unto Esther, and declare it unto her, and to charge her that she should go in unto the king to make supplication unto him and to make request before him for her people. Now, what does this sound like she's doing? What is Mordecai sending her to do? Who can tell me what Mordecai is sending Esther to do? Y'all can't comment because for some reason the chat don't work. I'll read it for you again. Hey, everybody. What's up, cuz? Chapter 6, chapter 4, verse 6. I read it again. Hey. Does y'all have any business over it? You know what I need all of y'all to do? Leah, tell them what I need them to do. And do what? That's right. Tell them again so they can hear you. Go stand in front of your siblings and your friends and tell them what they need to do. So what does everybody need to do right now? Say it with me, children, all of you. What do you need to do? Be quiet. And do what? All right then. So that's what we're going to do, are we not? All right, thank you. So Hatak went forth to Mordecai unto the street of the city, which was before the king's gate. Mordecai told him of all that happened unto him, and of the sum of the money that Haman had promised to pay to the king's treasuries to the for the Yahudim to destroy them. Pause. So first and foremost, let me deal with this right here. Verse 6 and 7. What is it? What are you doing? Verses 6 and 7. What is that? What is that referring to? Sit down. Abigail, you okay? Okay. That would be Judas, and that would be Yahushua telling them of what he knew what was going to occur to him. I read that again, as he says, Mordecai told him all that would happen unto him, and of the sum of the money that Haman promised to pay. So let's take a look. Number one, let's go to Matthew chapter 26. Well, matter of fact, make it Matthew 19. So you can see Mordecai playing the role of Yahushua and Hatak playing the role of Peter and his apostles. I said Matthew 19, and it's Matthew 16. It would be 16 and 20. And then from there, Matthew chapter 26, probably about verse 12. Then he charged his disciples that they should tell no man that he was Yahushua the Mashiach. From that time forth, he began to show Yahushua to show unto his disciples how he must go unto Jerusalem and suffer many things of the elders, chief priests, and scribes, and be killed and be raised again the third day. Now let's look at this here, right? Matter of fact, before we go to Matthew 26, go to John chapter 13. John 13 and 3. No cut. No. And it says, Yahushua, knowing that the Abba had given all things into his hand, that he was come from Elohim and went to Elohim, he rose from supper and laid aside his garments and took a towel and girded himself. After that, he poured water into a basin to wash the disciples' feet. I was a verse too low. You can start at verse 1. I missed the verse that I was quiet. It says, now before the feast of Passover, when Yahushua knew that his hour was come, that he should depart out of this world unto the Father, having loved his own, for in the world he loved them unto the end. And supper being ended, the devil having now put into the call, while Haman was mad with Mordecai to the point that he wanted to slay all the Yahudim. He did not bow to him. Now, what does that tell us? We went over that in the past. Because you don't want to bow to the beast, and you don't want to bow to things that are contrary to Yahuwah. This will cause people, you bought you one, man. You want to show it off to your friends. While he was here. You're a nice guy. I don't have no idea what you think. I don't know if that's factual. Can that be verified? Yeah, verification has been received. What's that? Is that polyester? Sure. Yeah. I look like it kind of looked like from a distance that polyester that I need to put on them shirts. That's 20 something from Australia. Can you see it? Shirt with pop on the front, Tom and Jerry on the back. No, what it do that? But continue. So when you have that going on, that you won't have the willingness to bow. This is what will get you slaughtered. But there's a reason why I'm mentioning what I'm mentioning, because it's going to lead to, in the multitude of people, is the king's honor. But we'll get to that shortly. Let's come on around here to verse 21 in the 13th chapter of John, and let's continue. When Yahushua had thus said, he was troubled in Ruach and testified and said, truly, truly, I say unto you that one of you shall betray me. Then the disciples looked one another, doubting of whom he spake. Stop. Now there was leaning on Yahushua's bosom one of his disciples whom Yahushua loved. Simon Peter therefore beckoned to him. He should ask who it was of whom he spake. He then lying on Yahushua's breast said unto him, Lord, who is it? Yahushua answered, and he it is, to whom I shall give sop, and when I have dipped it, and when he had dipped the sop, he gave it to Judas Iscariot, the son of Simon. After the sop, Hashatan entered into him. Then said Yahushua unto him, that you do quickly. Now come on back to Matthew 26. Now, with Hashatan entering into him, now let's put it this way, because it makes two references. It makes one reference in the earlier part of John 13. I want to say verse 3, that the devil entered into him. Now it says here in the later part of the chapter that the adversary has entered into him. What is the key component of both of these? Even though it's the same person, what does devil mean? No, devil does not mean that. No, it says in verse 3 of John 13, the devil entered into Judas Iscariot to betray him. And verse 20, whatever that was, in John 13, it says that when he dipped the bread in the sop and gave it to him, Hashatan entered into him. Now, this is the same entity, but we know that these two words have two different definitions. So what is the reasoning behind that? And this goes along with Haman, whether you realize it or not. And this also goes into the second half of that verse of, hold on. And it goes into the second half of the verse that the one of the people is destruction of the prince. Because we talked about that on Wednesday. So who knows what the definition of devil is? A false accuser. And then Hashatan is an adversary. So when you look at Haman, what did Haman do to Mordecai? He falsely accused him. And then he turned into what? An adversary, because he sought to destroy all the Yahudim. What did Judas do? We're going to read it in Matthew 26. He joined with false accusers. And then, therefore, he became an adversary to him. I always remember that the names have meanings, and therefore they necessitate actions on the party of whom the person is named. With Judas, what does his name mean? Judas is actually Judah. So it means praise. So if he means praise, it was the praise of Elohim for Judas to do what he did in order for her Mashal to be sacrificed, and therefore so people could be delivered through this man's sacrifice. So it was needful for him to do this. Because that what he thought, as it states in Genesis chapter 50, what you thought to do to me the evil turned out to be good, saving many souls alive. That ended up being the praise to Yahuwah. So what Judas thought and the priest thought was for evil ended up being for the praise Elohim, like I think we discussed last week, when that centurion bear witness that this is the son of Elohim when he seen everything go down. He had no choice but to do. Matthew chapter 26. Oh, you have a chair. Leave that baby alone. Somebody must want to go stand in the corner. Who wants to stand in the corner? Not me. I think it's about 26 and 12. 26 and 14. And it says, then one of the 12 called Judas Iscariot went unto the chief priests and said unto them, what will you give me and I will deliver him unto you. And they covenanted with him 30 pieces of silver. And from that time, he saw opportunity to betray him. So, of course, you know what happened when Judas came looking for him. In John, what it is, 18? Or John 19? Whatever chapter it is. No, it's John 18. Might be, yes, 18. What happened to Judas when he came looking for the Lord? When he asked him, who you looking for? And he told him his name. What happened? And what happened to them? To the soldiers, to Judas and all of them. What happened to him? Who can tell me what happened to him without us going to read? They fell backwards. Now, what was the purpose of them falling backwards? Because when you try to fight against Elohim, you can never go forward. You're always going to go backwards. And it's going to be for your own fault. Also stating what's in the law. What does the law say what happens if you falsely accuse somebody of something? What is supposed to happen? No, it said whatever you thought that you sought to do to them, to let that be done unto you. So because they set traps for his fall, that was showing them that it was really a trap for their own fault. The same thing with Haman. What he thought was going to be a trap for Mordecai's fall ended up being a trap of his own fault, because he seen what happened to him, because he thought evil against someone who had done no evil. But let's go back over here to what was it? Esther chapter. You know, we don't go in the book of Esther a lot. I think the last time we was in there when we was looking at how a woman conducts herself. And mainly because we pretty much exhausted all the gospel preaching we can out the book of Esther for the most part. I can get back around there to it. We might can do something. Let me just then I have the page to close. Let me just use my phone. So now I'll read verse 6 and 7 again, and we'll continue. So Hatak went forth to Mordecai unto the street of the city, which was before the king's gate. And Mordecai told all the people him of all that happened unto him, and of the sum of the money that Haman promised to pay to the king's treasury for the Yahudim to destroy it. And he gave them the copywriting of the decree that was given at Shushan to destroy them, and to show it unto Esther, and to declare unto her, and charge her that she should go in unto the king, and make supplication unto him, and make request before him for her people. And Hatak came and told Esther the words of Mordecai. So what is that? What Esther is being sent to do? What does that sound like to you? She would be as a mediator. Now let's take a look at something. Who are the two people outside of the Lord that you know that went and made intercession to Yahuwah on behalf of the people? I mentioned it because we just read about one not too long ago. Moses is easy. That's the easy one. But now I want you to remember the one we just mentioned, because Moses is one of them, but that's the easy one. I expected you to get Moses. But do you recall who the other one was? Not right now. Not right now. Not right now. I am not concerned. What? I'll sit somewhere else. You should have got up. Hey. You know what? You know what? Come sit down right here. Get your spit back in your mouth, because that's disgusting. And be quiet. Abraham is not the other person who went and interceded on the people's behalf. He interceded on their own. The people didn't come and ask him to do that. He did that on his own. Moses went and interceded on the people's behalf because they directly sinned in his presence. Abraham did that, asking him not to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. But you have an instance where someone went directly to Yahuwah on behalf of the children of Israel. Not Samuel now. Not Samuel now. We just read about him too. The people came to him and asked him to do it too. No, it wasn't Mordecai.
When did we talk about this?
It wasn't, huh?
Solomon.
It wasn't Solomon either. It wasn't Elijah either. No, probably about 2-3 weeks ago. Yeah, I can tell you this here. He's a Benjamite. That's who did it. No, it wasn't Paul. Oh, Avon said Ezekiel. No, it was a Benjamite. Ezekiel's a Levite.
Eli.
It's a Benjamite who that Yahuwah knew in the womb. Gideon was of the tribe of Manasseh. Yes, it was Jeremiah. In the 42nd chapter of Jeremiah, if I recall correctly. Came and made intercession on behalf of the people. Would you like to see it, dog? You remember? Jeremiah chapter 42. From Jeremiah 42, we'll go to Hebrews chapter 7. No, we'll go to I take that back. We'll go to Luke chapter 23. And then Hebrews chapter 7. Jeremiah 42:1. Then all the captains of the forces of Yonan, the son of Kareah, and Jezaniah, the son of Hoshai, and all the people from the least even to the greatest came near and said unto Jeremiah the prophet, let we beseech you, our supplication be accepted before you, and pray for us under Yahuwah your Elohim, even for all this remnant, for we are left but a few of many, as your eyes do behold us, that Yahuwah your Elohim may show us the way wherein we may walk, and the thing that we may do. Now, that's where your Benjamite that you just mentioned come in at. Who recalls what those unclean spirits said about Paul when he cast them out that woman? Out that young girl who was making money for them super sex. Does anybody recall what those unclean spirits said about Paul? Because no, they said that they did say, but they said something else. They said something else, which is along the lines of what these people just said to Jeremiah. They just said to Jeremiah that you may show us the way where we may walk and the thing that we may do. And something similar was said by unclean spirits about this Benjamite being Paul. Do we need to read it to bring it to you, the room, if you don't recall? Would you like to read it, Malik? I'll take that at the end. Acts chapter 19. We through with Jeremiah 4. Actually, Acts 16. Acts 16 and 14. Well, Acts 16 and 16. But y'all already know there's a lot of that stuff going on, witchcraft, all that stuff. And like, witches are bold. Witches don't think they're going to go to hell. And what I told you, you know what witches really into too, right? Y'all don't know what witches really be into? You know the biggest thing witches like to do? Oh, no, it's bigger than calling spirits. Witches. Huh?
Something with men.
Yeah, the witches get their power from one major activity, whether you know it or not. Not just necessarily orgies, but sex, because it's sex magic. No, I'm being serious. I ain't trying to be funny. I'm being dead serious. You know what I'm saying? It's sex magic. It can come through orgies. It can come from sleeping with men. It can come from sleeping with women. It can come from sleeping with animals. But a lot of witchcraft has its roots with sex. That's why if you always see people talk about what they mistakenly always refer to the Illuminati, and they always talk about the orgies and the homosexual activities because it's sex magic. And a lot of women who you see say they witches, you see that they are very promiscuous and provocatively dressing or provocatively conducting themselves. You know what I'm saying? This is why the witch is held in higher regard over the man, because the man does not elicit the same sexual energy that a woman does. And this is how a woman enchants. It's no different than what the children were asking about with mermaids. If you look at, do y'all know the origins of mermaids? like the actual historical, well, not historical, the actual mythological origins of mermaids. You know about the little mom? Deidre, you know?
Yeah, it's not. And they said it was
Is I mean that's Asteroid. How many of y'all familiar with I think the book Odyssey by Homer? Y'all familiar with are y'all familiar with the Greek author Homer? Did any of you had to read the Odyssey when you were in school? There's something called sirens. Are you familiar with sirens? What is a siren? And it was basically women in the water that pretended to be sexy. They would make a nice little wailing noise, and you would come to them, and then they would devour you. You know what I'm saying? That is where mermaids come from. That's what mermaids are. Mermaids are a kid-friendly version of the Greek mythological character of a siren. Sirens would attract their victims through alluring to them sexually. And then once you were baited in sexually, then they would devour you. The same thing of what's mentioned in Proverbs chapter 7, and why Yahuwah told you through the mouth of Solomon in Proverbs chapter 6 to not lust after a woman's beauty with your eyelids. Because that is what will get you destroyed. Because while you were caught up in her physical appearance, then you're going to neglect to see what type of woman that this is, and she will destroy you. This is why he instructed you not to do so. If y'all have ever seen the little things where they show the little stuff in the water and like, oh, we got you now and all this other type of stuff, that's what that is. That's what a mermaid is. Did you hear that, Leah? A mermaid is a siren, a very evil creature. She's a witch. How do we feel about witches? Very good. Yes. Yes, sir. But witches don't cast spells like you see on your cartoon. They don't cast spells that way. They cast spells with words and with action. And they like to use the forces of nature. They like to use water, air, fire, and something else. Some of them use blood and some of them do not. It depends on what type of witch that they are. You know what I'm saying? Because right now, Wicca is very, very popular. It's been around for years, centuries, millenniums, if you will. But in this day and time, it's become very, very popular for people to deal with Wicca. Are y'all familiar with Wicca? Wicca is just a form of witchcraft. It's an actual religion. And they believe in the forces of nature. You know what I'm saying? But they be hoes on the low. I had ran across something with somebody I knew. I didn't even know such a thing existed. I guess because they done got rid of Backpage and Premium Snapchat. Nigga had an OnlyFans page where niggas charge $20 a month to look at a nigga photograph. And a dude I know who made videos made mention of that. Like old porn hoes, Instagram hoes, all getting the OnlyFans page. Why would I pay $20 to look at some raggedy hoe? But shoot, it only take about 5 niggas. 5 niggas at $20 a month, you're already at 100. Get you on top of mine. Multiply that a few times, you're making G's. A lot of money. To bust your coochie wide open. Ain't that about it? But nevertheless, Acts 16 and 16. It came to pass as he went to prayer, a certain damsel possessed with a ruach of divination met us, which is this is she's a witch. See, this is the reason why when you deal with divination and these things, is because you're dealing with spirits. And see, people go to fooling with stuff and they don't really realize what level of spirits that they dealing with. And that junk all well and good. Let's have a seance. Let's play with the Ouija board. Let's play with tarot cards. Let's fool with this and let's fool with that. Until you start fooling with something that you're not prepared for. Because that junk all fun and games. Figure who will let an evil spirit fall on you and torment the living daylights out of you. You know what I'm saying? But people be fooling with stuff you don't know what you're fooling with. Junk all good. Now, nigga can tell you, see, they want to scare you with that European stuff. That's what our ancestors did. And what they got them niggas. I don't care what my ancestors did. Just because they did it don't make it right. You know what I'm saying? You got ancestors that slept with boys. That make it right? You know what I'm saying? You got ancestors that slept with ghosts. Does that make it right? Just because that's what your ancestors did don't mean that's what you got to do. So I don't care for none of that. But I feel like this here. You want to fool with spirits? Fool with spirits. But don't be shocked when you get what you was looking for. Nevertheless, And it came to pass as we went to prayer, a certain damsel possessed with a ruach of divination met us, which brought her masters much gain by soothsaying. The same followed Paul and us and cried, saying, These men are the servants of the Most High Elohim, which show unto us the way of salvation. And this she did many days. But Paul, being grieved, turned and said to the ruach, I command you in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach to come out of her. And he came out the same hour. So when you look at it, what was causing her to do that? It was the spirit that was on her. Because that unclean spirit knew full well who that was in front of her, in front of him. You know what I'm saying? That it knew what it was. Unclean spirits know. And these people go, yeah, well, all these people who deal with witchcraft and all that type of stuff, the spirits that directed them, they know they're going to hell. Sit down.
How a lot of people get him and his wife on stage, and he actually came out and said when it was Christians.
Oh, you talking about Jamal Bryant? Yeah, I seen somebody mention that there because a lot of niggas burning sage, and you can burn sage all you want, but you a damn fool if you think sage warning off some unclean spirits. Like burning sage, some people like it ain't nothing but incense. You know what I'm saying? But niggas burning sage because it's a part, depending on what you follow, it's a part of witchcraft, right? So that's why a lot of people say, oh, if you burning sage, you participating in witchcraft. It depends on why you burn it. That's no different than, well, it is different. But they put candles on birthday cakes because they say blowing out the candles will ward off unclean spirits, which means that you violate Deuteronomy 18:10 because you went to divination. You thinking that another power has power to do something to you other than Yahuwah. You know what I'm saying? If you serve Yahuwah, an unclean spirit is the least of your concerns. Unclean spirit can't do nothing to a servant of Yahuwah. Where do you read an unclean spirit doing anything to anyone who serves? That's why I be tripping on niggas be like, oh, they cast and spell, they know voodoo. Well, let them cast them. Matter of fact, since I said it and I feel like it, Isaiah chapter 54, verse 16. Matter of fact, make it Isaiah 54 and 15. Hey, nothing, man. Behold, they shall surely gather together, but not by me. Whosoever shall gather together against you shall fall for your sake. Pause. Now you see how that goes back to what we were discussing. Now when we look at Haman, what happened with Haman? He fell for our sake. What's going to happen to the beast and the armies that he gathers? They're going to fall for our sake. What happened with Judas and all the people that they brought? They fell for our sake through Yahushua first and foremost. So that's why this is important about what he's about to say. He said, behold, I've created the smith that blows the coals in the fire, that bring forth an instrument for his work, and I've created the waster to destroy. No weapon that is formed against you shall prosper. Every tongue that shall rise against you in judgment, you shall condemn. This is the heritage of the servants of Yahuwah, and their righteousness is of me, saith Yahuwah. Now, of course, you know, this is a highly misquoted passage. We've dealt with it before. I'll deal with it briefly. How many of y'all used to tell people that when you was running, before you knew any better? You used to tell people, and ain't no weapon formed against me, gonna prosper. At least you look like you told a nigga that a time. So what does it mean? First and foremost, this takes us back to Joseph, takes us to Mordecai, because a weapon was formed against him. It did not prosper. And Yahushua, obviously. Now, the next thing that we look at is every tongue that rises against you in judgment, you shall condemn. What does this mean? Who in here can tell me what this means? Every tongue that rises against you, and I need scripture for your answer. Who can give me an example? Let me say it that. Let me ask the question that. Who can give me an example of every tongue that rises against you in judgment, you shall condemn? Well, thank you, David. Who can answer that? Who can give me an example of that? You like to go back to this? Who can give me an example of that?
I was thinking when Job was talking about him, he was going.
But did Job's tongue condemn them in judgment? Was he able to condemn what they were saying in judgment?
I was just gonna say that. I think y'all gonna personally told him not to.
No, Job didn't actually condemn them in judgment because Job was busy trying to justify himself when he really should have just ignored it. Any of y'all got an answer for that? Who got an example of somebody whose tongue rising up in judgment they condemn? Now, of course, this takes us to 1 Corinthians chapter 2. With who?
With the dude, he told out to leave the city. He left the city. He said no words.
But that's a little different because he didn't rise up against him in judgment to condemn him because he was contending with him. Well, Samson, with who? Because I said, hold on, because I say that because Buddy was already judged. But no, it said every tongue that rises up. Now, what is judgment?
What about David?
Now, David didn't say anything to, but he let Buddy slide. Now, the first thing we have to determine is what is judgment. But besides that, because that's your spot. So what's the other definition? So you got mishpat, and what is that? That's the discerning between what's right and what's wrong. So when he say every tongue rise up against you in judgment, you shall condemn. What is this meaning? Any mouth that comes against you in the determining of the righteousness of the word of Yahuwah, you can be able to stop. So who do you see doing that? One person you see him doing that is Joseph. Who did he do it to? He did it to his brothers. Because when they came back and got him, he was able to rise up in judgment and condemn their speech because they were wrong. Who's another person that did that as well? Absolutely, because they tried to condemn him because he wanted to kill him. And he condemned them when he said, who you gonna serve? Baal or Yahuwah? What is this telling? This is taking us to 1 Corinthians chapter 2, where it says that a spiritual man judgeth all things, but is judged by no man. You understand what I'm saying? Because when you are Yahuwah, then he said somebody, because you know Yahushua did this numerous times. That's the main key example. How many times did they come at him with judgment? How many examples can y'all think of where they rose up against Yahushua in judgment? You can think about that when you're dealing with the resurrection of the dead, with being married to the woman and she married the 7 brothers. You can look at that in regards to when they came at him with the penny for Caesar. You can look at it in regards to when they came to him with the woman called an adultery. You can look at it in regards to John chapter 8, when he told them that, you know what I'm saying, the truth shall set you free. You can look at it in John chapter 7 when he said, I go back to my Father. Also again in John chapter 8 when he said, if you don't believe that I am he, you shall die in your sins. Because you can look at it in Matthew 22 when they say, when he asked them, if David said that the Mashiach is his Lord, then who is David to this man? And the men were quiet. Because these are examples of spiritual men. And what is heritage? What is the definition of heritage? Who can recall the Hebrew word and the definition for the Hebrew word for heritage? What does it tell you in Revelation chapter 21 that if you overcome, what will happen? And in Revelation 21:6, he said, he that overcome will do something. Who can recall what it is that he will do? He will inherit all things. So when he said that this is the heritage of the servants of Yahuwah, this is what the servants of Yahuwah inherit. That whatever weapon is formed against them, it will not succeed. Any tongue that raises up against them in judgment, they will condemn. Did not Mordecai condemn Haman? Let's continue at the other part of that verse. Now, I mentioned all these things for a reason because we got to look at, who recalls what we're supposed to look at this evening? No, I'm talking about, I mentioned it, so that we ended it Wednesday. Who can recall what we're supposed to look at this evening? If you don't remember, it's okay. I shall refresh your memory soon enough. Huh? The stars in the firmament. So, and that's why I'm mentioning that, because if it's the heritage of the servants of Yahuwah, and that's your inheritance, then what would that make you? That would make you a star in the firmament of heaven, would it not? So if you're a star in the firmament of heaven, what would that make you? That would make you a son of Elohim. So this is only the inheritance for the sons of Elohim, because that's why I mentioned Revelation 21:6. He said, he that overcomes shall inherit all things. He shall be my son, and I shall be his Elohim. Because Romans chapter 8 tells us what? That he has not given us the spirit of bondage, but he has put the spirit of his son in us that we might cry out, Abba, period. Because now it's different now. You're no longer just an individual. You're no longer of the house of Yasharal. You're a son of Elohim. That is very important because you, as we already know, we know what's approaching. And when that is approaching, your mind needs to be turning on doing what? What did Paul tell you in 1 Corinthians 5:6? To purge out the leaven and make yourself a new lump, because Mashal is the unleavened bread and the Passover, which was sacrificed for us, because that is a remembrance and a commemoration of the day when you were able to become a son of Elohim. The day that he was sacrificed and the day that he rose from the dead is what gave you the power to become a son of Elohim. Yes, the Ruach was given on Pentecost so you could receive it, but you got the power to become a son of Elohim on Passover. That's when you got the power to do it. Well, let me put it this way. That's when Yahushua received the power to do it, to impart it unto all those who trust in him. I know I mentioned Luke 23 with intercession. I need to grab that after I finish this Isaiah 54. And look at what he said, and their righteousness is of me. So what is that righteousness that is of Yahuwah? It's the righteousness which is of faith. It's not the righteousness that comes from the law. But Luke chapter 23. 23 and 44, if I'm not mistaken. Make that my apologies. Luke 23 and 27. Stop playing. Matter of fact, Abigail, come here.
No, she did that.
No, she was playing with Malia. Come here. Come here. Fix your face. Ain't nobody finna get you. Come here. Come here. Stop being stuck. You want to go get in the bed? Go and get in the bed, dude. Go and get in the bed. Go. You ain't have to do all that. Want nobody finna do nothing. Go get in the bed. Want to do nothing but tell you stop playing. Since you want to be Abigail, go get in the bed. Don't get in the bed. Don't. Luke 23 and 27. And there followed a great company of people and of women, which will also be wailed and lamented. But Yahushua himself turned unto them, daughters of Jerusalem, weep not for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children. For behold, the days are coming, which they shall say, blessed are the barren and the wombs that never bear, and the paps which never gave son. Then shall they begin to say to the mountains, fall on us, and to the hills cover us. For if they do these things in a green tree, what shall be done in the dry? There were also two other malefactors led with him to be put to death. And when they were come to the place which is called Calvary, they crucified him and the malefactors, one on the right hand and the other on the left. Then said Yahushua, Abba, forgive them, for they know not what they do. In that instance, he made intercession on these people's behalf. Because he already knew that the weapon formed against him was not going to prosper. But yet he still made intercession on their behalf. This is something that we have to remember. Whether while we serving Yahuwah or before we serve Yahuwah. The intercession for your salvation had already been made. It had already been made. The lack of intercession for your damnation has already been made. You know what I'm saying? I was just talking with Trav and Brandon about this earlier. You already know what you've been chosen for. It's just whether it's going to manifest. But we were talking about that earlier about predestination. Some people don't believe in that. Some people do. I believe what the words say. People already been chosen for their path. It's already been chosen for you. You just walk. That's why I mentioned that somewhat the other day about the world being a movie and a stage. They say the world's a stage. I think John shared that piece of it in the chat coming from Scientology. But at the same token, the world is a stage and everybody's playing their part. The script's already been written. You just playing your role. Go sit down. Matter of fact, Hebrews chapter 7. Where? Hebrews 7 and 22. Hebrews, get out the camera. Well, I don't think they care to see your boogers anymore. Did you check? Oh, you don't. I need all y'all to sit down because I don't have enough room to cater for all of you. So I need y'all to go sit down. Abigail, get from under this chair. Yes. What? Well, I can't have all y'all sitting because I don't have to. You can sit right there. Hebrews 7 and 22. By so much was Yahushua made a surety of a better testament. And truly were many priests because they were not suffered to continue by reason of death. But this man, because he continued forever, have an unchangeable priesthood, wherefore he is able to save them to the uttermost that come to Elohim by him, seeing he ever lived to make intercession for them. And that's the difference between the testaments that we have. And that's what we were looking at with Esther, is that she made intercession. She was an example of Yahushua making intercession to the king so the people could be saved. Let's go back to the book of Esther in chapter 4. Chapter 4. You know what it is. What is it?
Hallelujah.
Oh, look at verse 10 of Esther chapter 4. I need y'all to sit down. And Esther spake unto Hatak and gave him commandment unto Mordecai. All the king's servants and all the people of the king's prophets do know that whatsoever, whether man or woman come, shall come into the king into the inner court. Who is not called, there's one law to put him to death. Get down out of that camera and sit down. You as well, Abigail. I need y'all to follow me. Abigail, get from under this table. It doesn't matter. Y'all are worried about the wrong thing. Abigail, do what I told you to do. Move. Move, Abigail. Go in your room. Go in your room. Go in your room. Go. Put your hard head.
Come here.
Put your hard head. Not following directions. So when we look at verse 10 of Esther, the fourth chapter, again, Esther spake unto Hathach and gave commandment unto Mordecai, all the king's servants and all the people and the king's prophets, do know that whosoever, whether man or woman, shall come into the king into the inner court, who is not called, there is one law of his to put him to death, except such to whom the king shall hold out the golden scepter, that he may live. But I have not been called to come in unto the king these 30 days. What does that sound like about not coming to the king in the inner court? Should be an easy one. Yeah, only the high priest that is called can enter into the most set apart place. The same way that Yahusha is the only one who went into the Kedah. Get Hebrew chapter 9. Hebrews 9 and this is Hebrews chapter 10 that I want. Hebrews 10 and 15. Make it 10 and 14. What? Come on over, sit right here, mother. Mother. You sit down. You sit down. Hebrews 10 and 15. Wherefore the Ruach HaKodesh also is a witness to us. For after that he has said before, this is the covenant I will make with them after those days, saith the Lord. I will put my laws in their hearts and in their minds will I write them, and their sins and iniquities will I remember no more. A remission of these is there is no more offering for sin. Having therefore, brethren, boldness to enter into the Kadash by the blood of Yahusha, by a new and living way, which he have consecrated for us through the veil, that is to say, his flesh. So again, with this consecration of his flesh and putting the word in your heart and in your mind, this gives you the ability to become the sons of Elohim. Because you couldn't come into the most innermost part unless the golden scepter was entered into you. But it tells you what does it tell you in Genesis 49 with Judah and the scepter? Who knows what Genesis 49 tells you with Judah and the scepter? It's not going to depart from him. So you can come into the innermost place because the scepter is in the hand of the king and you will not die. Because the law said that you couldn't do that. Hebrews chapter 4. Hebrews 4 and 14. Make it 4 and 12. Why y'all so concerned with looking at that camera? Don't nobody trying to see you. Can't see nobody. You want somebody to see you? Is that what it is, Michael? You want somebody to see you? You want somebody to see you too? But I want you to know what I want you to see. I want you to see. That's what I want you to do. Hebrews 4 and 12. Let us labor, therefore, to enter into that rest, lest any man fall after the same example of unbelief. For the word of Elohim is powerful, quick and powerful, sharper than a two-edged sword, piercing even to the dividing of asunder of soul and ruach, of joints and marrow, and is a discerner of the thoughts and intents of the heart. Neither is there any creature that is not manifest in his sight, but all things are naked and open unto the eyes of him whom we have to do. Seeing then that we have a great high priest that is passed into the heavens, Yahusha, the son of Elohim, let us hold fast our profession. For we have not a high priest which cannot be touched with the feelings of our infirmities, but was in all points tempted like as we are, yet without sin. Let us therefore come boldly unto the throne of grace, that we may obtain mercy and find grace in the help in the time of need. That's what we see Esther doing, willing to go to the throne of grace for help in a time of need. You can also now come to the throne of grace for help in a time of need because of Yahushua's sacrifice of something you could not do before. What? Okay, thank you for sharing. This was not the time to share. Back to Esther chapter 4. Verse 12. They told Mordecai Esther's words, and Mordecai commanded to answer Esther, think not yourself that you shall escape in the king's house more than all the Yahudim. For if altogether hold your shalom at this time, and there shall be an enlargement and deliverance arise to the Yahudim from another place. But you and your father's house shall be destroyed, and who know whether you are come to the kingdom for such a time as this. Then Esther bade unto Mordecai this answer, go gather together all the Yahudim, stop it, that are present in Shushan, fast you for me, neither eat nor drink 3 days, night or day. I also and my means will fast likewise. So will I go unto the king, which is not according to the law. And if I perish, I perish. Now that's what we have to sit back and look at. Yahushua went unto the king not according to the law, because the righteous should never be condemned over the wicked. Now we have to be able to follow through that same pathway. But that pathway can only be done with the sacrificing of self. I want you to come to Genesis chapter 1 and we can begin our foray. Because this was dealing with all the people being on one accord. Because they all came and fasted on one accord. They all went and sought Yahuwah on one accord. When you're dealing with being a son or daughter of Elohim, that's being on one accord with Elohim. And that's being on one accord with his mind, his thoughts, his words, and his mouth. If you recall when we read Isaiah, get out, boy. Get out. When we read Isaiah 55, what did he tell us? His thoughts are not our thoughts, and his ways are not our ways. Because as the heavens is higher than the earth, so are his ways and his thoughts higher than ours. See, the biggest mistake that we always seek to make being in this flesh, that's why when we were dealing with the press and the new wine bursting out from the press, is because we lean on our own understanding because we think that our ways are equal to Yahuwah's ways. If you recall in Ezekiel 18, when he talked about the person who repented versus the person who did not, it said the house of Yasharal said, Yahuwah, your ways are unequal. He said, no, your ways are unequal because my way is not like your way. And see, we're supposed to be making our way like his way. Like what we read earlier, talking about I think one of those spots about doing things in the ancient path. You know, he said that in Jeremiah 6:16. Seek you the ancient path. Why does he say ancient path? He's talking about the path that was made from the foundation of the world and to follow after that. And what is that pathway to follow? He told you to take up your stake and follow him. That's what he told you to do. So the ancient path has always been willing to sacrifice to serve your power, not to sacrifice to serve yourself or to seek and to fulfill your own will. You can never be able to come to Yahuwah with that because that is a semblance of pride. And as we already know, Yahuwah say that he resists the proud, but he gives grace or favor to the humble. We see that with Yahushua because he humbled himself to death. That's the way that we have to live. We have to be willing to humble ourselves to death. Because he said he humbled himself and became a man and humbled himself even unto the death of the cross. So that means that you have to become a son of Elohim. You have to follow that pattern. When we look at it, hey, why are y'all sitting around talking, playing, and jesting and things of that sort? Y'all being very disrespectful and rude. I do not care for it. I would like if y'all would desist in that. Genesis chapter 1, right? And verse 6. It says, Elohim said, let there be firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. Elohim made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which was above the firmament, and it was so. And Elohim called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. Now, what is the rationale with the water above the firmament and the water under the firmament? What does that refer to? Who can tell me what that refers to? The water under the firmament and the water above. The water that's on the earth versus the water that's in heaven. Can anybody answer that? Waters usually seen as refer to people. The waters above the firmament refer to the spirit. Because remember, where did the Ruach come from? It came from where? It came from Shamanim. But let's look at this word for firmament. Y'all be on real hard headed. Remember, it was Rakah. You got Rosh, Kuf, Yod, and Ayin. So you ponder upon that. Remember, it means firmament, also flat base or support. So you look at firmament as something that supports. It's a base and it supports. What is a base that supports? That would be a rock. That would be a rock. But Rosh, Kuf, Yod, and Ayin. Ponder upon it. Rosh, Kuf, Yod, and Ayin. Rosh, Kuf, Yod, and Ayin. What do you have to offer for them? Does anyone have anything that they would like to offer?
That's right.
Does anybody have anything for that? Find a work of the highest. What else you say, sir? Renee, you trying to put your face in that camera? You trying to put your face in that camera? The red lock baby. Oh, you have a splinter. I'm sorry to hear that. So I would sit back on this instance and I would look at Coop and I would say light because of what we're about to deal with. So I would probably say Fa'in. Let me look and see because I had something different first, but I'm coming with something a little bit different than what I already had. But this one here, I would take how this light will cause you to know the word or the light converging in the soul. So when we look at that there, we see that the light of the work of the highest or the work of Yahushua converges the soul, or it causes a transformation. I want you to come to Romans chapter 8. About verse 28. Make it 26. Romans 8 and 26. Do you still have a splinter? Where is it? Oh, it's in there very well. It'll come out on its own. Romans 8 and 26. Likewise, the Ruach also help our infirmities. What is infirmities? Illness or your weaknesses. Remember that that Paul made it. Well, Yahushua made a statement to Paul that his grace is sufficient for you because the strength is made perfect in weakness. You know what I'm saying? So the Spirit, it says, that will pray, or it will help you with your weakness. You know what I'm saying? This is another reason why it is necessary and needful to seek and acquire it. Because every situation and circumstance that we enter, the word should be coming to mind on how you conduct yourself and how you could how you look at and judge every situation and circumstance that you're involved in. Are you looking at situations and circumstances and says, this is how Yahuwah would want me to behave? Or these words that Yahuwah would want me to speak in accordance to his perfect will, that he is honored and esteemed in my speech and in my conduct? Remember? Yes? What? Be quiet. Thank you. So you have to recall that. Remember what Paul's statement was in Acts, that he sought to be without offense towards Elohim and man. It also tells you that in Proverbs chapter 3, that when you please Yahuwah, the same thing with Jacob, that he calls you to find favor with Elohim and man. You know what I'm saying? I was talking to a little dog, man. And you know, he had done made a move, and it didn't go how he planned it at first, but it led to his good, because it led to him to having his own business and something that he knows how to do. So where now his earning potential is no longer capped in what he was doing. And he's went from working for Comcast to having his 2 trucks of his own, which if you will, it could turn to 6. But where the favor comes in at is he ran across a man who's been in that business for almost 30 years, who said, come here, I'm going to teach you and mentor you on everything that you need to do, whether you get down with me or whether you do it on your own. And that's what Yahuwah does, is that he can cause you to find favor with him and men, finding favor with men to allow you to accomplish whatever it is that you may be seeking to accomplish, because if you're seeking to accomplish something that will esteem him, then he will allow it to prosper. This is why he tells you that if you seek Yahuwah, and matter of fact, I had the verse earlier this week. We can read it now. The book of Yahushua, son of Nun, chapter 1 and verse 8. Because I was just telling about, I was sitting down with a yellow bird last night, and it's 4 dudes. I ain't gonna call their names right here though. One I know is a millionaire for certain. Matter of fact, 3 of them are millionaires. This I know. You know what I'm saying? And the 4th one probably ain't too far behind. And they all love a nigga too. You know what I'm saying? And when I seen one of them, I told him, I said, I appreciate the look on that trash out that you sent me from somebody referring me to somebody. I've never done a trash out for this man who referred me ever. Not one time. I did get some money with him on a deal, but he never did a trash out for him. He said, no problem. Just seeking to add value. He said, man, you need to holler at me, because we need to do some things. You know what I'm saying? He got love for you. Now, why does this man, who I've never really had any in-depth conversations with, you know what I'm saying? I've talked to him a couple times. You know what I'm saying? But he has a desire that I want you, this man told me, I want you to stop tripping over pennies and start grabbing dollars. He's like, man, screw that cleaning money, man. I need you to come over here and get this over here, what we getting over here. You know what I'm talking about? I say, but I got this going on over here, so I don't care about it. Find somebody else to do it so he can come over this here. That's Yahuwah can touch people to have favor where they say, I'm going to do something for you. It ain't nothing that they necessarily may be doing off their own volition. It may be in their heart to do it, but also Yahuwah can give them a heart to do it. Because that's what he means when he say you find favor with Elohim and man when you seek to please Yahuwah. And that's what you seen with Jacob? Did you not see that with Joseph? Did you not see that with Daniel? Did not Daniel get favor with Elohim and man? Because Nebuchadnezzar loved this man. And even when these people sought to kill him, he didn't want to join in league with his colleagues. He wanted to save Daniel. The only reason why he couldn't do nothing because the king can't go back on his word. He signed a decree saying if you worship another god for X amount of days, this is what's going to happen. He can't go on his word. But what did Nebuchadnezzar say? He said, your Elohim can save you. I know this. You understand that? He had favor with this man. When you constantly just worry about seeking with pleasing Yahuwah, there are doors that can be opened that no man can shut. Period, point blank. But that has to be your concern. Look at Yahushua, son of Nun, chapter 1, verse 8. Matter of fact, go on, just make it verse 6. He said, be strong and of good courage, for unto the people shall you divide for an inheritance the land which I swear unto the fathers to give them. Only be you strong and very courageous, that you may observe to do according to all the Torah, which Moses my servant commanded you. Turn not from it to the right hand or to the left, that you may prosper wheresoever you go. This book of Torah shall not depart out of your mouth, but you shall meditate therein day and night, that you may observe to do according to all that is written therein. For then shall you make your way prosperous, and then you shall have good success. Have I not commanded you, be strong and of good courage? Be not afraid, neither be you dismayed, for Yahuwah your Elohim is with you wheresoever you go. That's the thing that you have to remember. No matter what you encounter, he told them to give good courage, be strong, and don't be dismayed at what you encounter. Because if you keep this man's word and you think upon his word, and you know what I'm mentioning thinking upon his word, what did he tell you in Isaiah chapter 26? What happens to an individual that thinks upon his name? Don't worry if you can't remember. That just gives me an excuse to read. Isaiah chapter 26. Isaiah 26. He said, you will keep him in perfect shalom, whose mind is stayed on you, because he trusts in you. Trust you in Yahuwah forever, for Yahuwah is everlasting strength. This is what he's telling Yahushua son of Nun in chapter 1. This is what is emblematic of those who are the sons of Elohim. Their mind is stayed on Yahuwah. Therefore, they keep his instructions. Therefore, they think upon Yahuwah. And therefore, their ways can be made prosperous. And even in times where it seems like you're going to be dismayed and things are not going in your direction, that if you continue going forward, that Yahuwah will make your way prosperous and successful. Because looking from the outside, looking in, it didn't look like Yahushua's way was successful. But in the end, when all things were accomplished, success had been achieved. If you look at what you determine success to be. If you look at it, you determine success to be how much money or fiat currency, I should say, you have in your bank account and how much material items that you can acquire and possess, then you very well may see yourself to be successful, but yet inwardly you are direct and bankrupt and ready for hell. Because this is what you judge a success by. You should judge success by that not only do you may prosper in the things of this life, but most importantly, you prosper in the things that are in heaven. Because the things of this life are nothing for you to get. He said he could take a man from a dunghill and make him rich. That's nothing. You do know what a dunghill is, right? You know what what's a dunghill is? Dung. So he told he'd take a man from a pile of doo-doo and make him wealthy. So that's nothing. Back to Romans chapter 8. That's why Paul's made that. I mean, not Paul, but Yahushua made that statement that these are the things that the Gentiles see. And we ought not to be concerned or worried about things of that sort, but to seek Yahuwah, and those things will be added unto us. I think we stopped about verse 27. Are we still in Romans 8:26? Likewise, the Ruach also help our infirmities, for we know that we know not what we should pray for as ought, but the Ruach itself make intercession for us with groanings which cannot be uttered. And he that searched the hearts know what is the mind of the Ruach, because he make intercession for the saints according to the will of Elohim. And we know that all things work together for the good of them that love Elohim, and to them who are called according to his purpose. For whom he did foreknow, he did also predestinate to be conformed to the image of his son, that he might be the firstborn among many brethren. So, where can we see Yahushua being made the firstborn of many brethren? While you're thinking about where we can see that at, I want you to come to Job 38 and 9. Job 38 and 9. Well, 38 and 7 if you would, but you can pick it up at verse 1. Job 38 and 1. What you laughing for, Michael? Clearly, I wasn't talking to Mark, but thank you for alerting me to that fact. What you over there laughing about, Michael? Look at me when I'm talking to you, Michael. What you over there laughing about? Stop playing with your spit, boy. What's so funny, Michael? Come here. Kept doing what? You know what he doing. What are you over there doing? What are you over there doing? Doing what? Oh, so you find that funny? Playing with spit? Y'all need to chill out. Job 38:1. Then Yahuwah answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, who is this that darkened counsel by words without knowledge? Gird up now your loins like a man, for I will demand of you and answer you me. Where was you when I laid the foundation of the earth? I want you to we'll look at this word for foundation. He said, where were you at when he laid the foundation of the earth? Now the word there for where was I when I laid it, one word. It is Yasad. And it is to be founded, and it is to be laid, and it is to be fixed, and it's to lay the foundation or to establish. Yad, Samach, and Dalet. What would you sit back and think for that with Yad, Samach, and Dalet? The foundation. Remember, it says the Lamb was what? Slain from the foundation of the world. It says that basically that firmament is a base or a foundation. Yad, Samach, and Dalet is what we have. Put that baby down. Put that baby down. She can walk. She can walk though. What do you have for that with Yad, Samach, and Dalet? I would say for Samach, you would say infinite or everlasting. So what do you have? The work of the sacrifice is everlasting life. Let's take a look at Revelation 22. Why y'all in here playing, making all this noise? Go in the room and go lay down. Every last one. And maybe we'll let you get some dinner. Maybe we'll allow you to get some dinner. Because you're disrespectful in your room. Go in that room. All of them. Go. Everyone. Leah's room. And sit on the floor and look at the wall. That's you two. You two. You over there with them. You're probably right about it. Well, let them sit in the hallway in the dark. Revelation 22:9. Revelation 22. You go to Revelation 13. Or you can, matter of fact, you can make it Revelation 17. 17 and 7. And it says, and the Malachi said unto me, wherefore do you marvel? I will tell you the mystery of the woman and the beast that carry her, which has 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast that you saw was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is. So when you look at it again, that word yesod for foundation, where were you when the foundation was laid? Or where were you when the sacrifice of the work of the sacrifice of eternal life was executed? Because this is what, and again, what did we just read in Romans 9 or Romans 8? It tells you how those were predestinated to be conformed to the image of the Son. You were chosen to be conformed. See, in order to be conformed to the image of the Son, you must be willing to die. If you're not willing to die and offer yourself up, you can never be conformed to that image. I want you to look at Ephesians 1 and 4, just for another point. Make it 1 and 3. Hey, unlock the door for Johnny. Where your mom at? You. Where your mom at? Why you ain't over there sitting? Ephesians 1 and 3. Blessed be Elohim and our Father of our Lord Yahushua HaMashiach, who have blessed us with all spiritual blessings in heavenly places in Mashiach, according as he has chosen us in him before the foundation of the world, that we should be kadosh and without blame before him in love, having predestinated us unto the adoption of sons by Yahushua HaMashiach to himself, and according to the good pleasure of his will. Now notice what he said, that you were chosen in him before the foundation. So you were slain with him. Anyone who was chosen with him in the foundation of the world was slain when he was slain. How do we know that those that were slain with him, that people were slain with him when he was slain? How do we know this? What gives us an inkling to know that when Yahushua was slain from the foundation of the world, that those that were in him were slain along with him? There's two places that come to my mind immediately. But I see what y'all come up with. Dead body raised. That wasn't one of them, but I can see why you would use it. But it's two places come to my mind of showing the example that people were slain with him when he was slain. Before the world was made, if you were in Yahushua, you were slain with him. Because remember, what is baptism an allusion to? And all this is pointing to what we're going to look at about the stars being in the firmament. This is the purpose. And we're just taking a long winding road to get there. I could have took a shortcut. I chose not. Just give us something to talk about tomorrow. And I still got two more sessions to slide into. So I won't try to drag it out too long. No, go put them back where they belong. Well, anybody have anything come to y'all mind? Johnny said Isaiah 26 and 19. Does anybody have anything that come to their mind, and where you can see what the scriptures were alluding to, that the people who were in the Lord were slain with him from the foundation of the world? Anybody else? Everybody who was on the stage. Going once? Going twice? Oh, very well. Judges chapter 9. From Judges chapter 9, Psalms 139, and from Psalms 139, Luke chapter 6. Make sure I'm in the right place in Judges chapter 9. Let's chapter 9. I will probably say about verse 19, if you would. Make sure I'm in the right spot, though, but I believe that I am. If you then have dealt truly and sincerely with Jerubbaal, with this house this day, then you shall rejoice you with Amalek, and let us also rejoice with him. And let him also rejoice in you. But if not, let fire come out from Amalek and devour the men of Shechem and the house of Milo, and let the fire come out from the men of Shechem from the house of Milo and devour Amalek. Jotham ran away and fled and went to Bur and dwelt there for the fear of Amalek his brothers. When Amalek reigned 3 years over Yasharal, then Elohim sent an evil ruach between Amalek and the men of Shechem, and the men of Shechem dealt treacherously with Amalek. Now, Paul, now look at what it said an evil spirit would cause this individual to do. What did that evil spirit cause him to do? What did it say it just caused him to do? To deal treacherously. Let's just look at the definition for the word treacherous. And I'm just focusing on that because I mentioned something about an evil spirit, and that's for us to know what evil spirits actually do. The word is to God, and it is to deal deceitfully or to deal treacherously, to be faithless or to offend. So Yahuwah son of evil spirit to cause what? But to cause some manner of division or separation between these parties. Let's continue. That the cruelty done to the 70 sons of Jerubbaal might come, and their blood be upon Amalek, their brother, which slew them, and upon the men of Shechem, who aided him in the killing of his brethren. So this is why the evil spirit came, because these men did an evil work, and it was to set them up so they could be slaughtered. The men of Shechem set liars in wait for him in the top of the mountains, and they robbed all that came along that way by them, and it was told to Amalek. So reading too much, and I'm not seeing it. There it is. That's still what I want. I don't want to read all of this. I really want to get straight to the point. But the words is in my head, but the verse is escaping me where I want. There it was. I was in the wrong chapter. Chapter 8. Chapter 8. I was in the wrong place. That's my fault. 8 and 13. And Gideon the son of Joash returned from the battle before the sun was up, called a young man of the men of Succoth, and inquired of him, and he described unto him the princes of Succoth and the elders thereof, even 70 men. And he came unto the men of Succoth and said, Behold, Zebah and Zalmunna, with whom do you upbraid me, saying, Are the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna now in your hand, that we should give bread unto men that are weary? And he took the elders of the city and the thorns of the wilderness and briars, and with them taught the men of Succoth. Look what he said he took with it. What is that representative of? That he took thorns and briars. I'm gonna read it to you again. That's what he said, and I'm gonna back it up a little bit. He said, in verse 15, are the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna now in your hand, that we should give bread unto men that are weary? What did Yahushua say about people who were weary? He said, if you were weary, to come unto him. But look at the next thing he says. He took the elders of the city and the thorns of the wilderness and briars, and with them he taught the men of Succoth. What does this mean when he say he's taking thorns and briars? Now I will give you the definition for thorns and briars, just so you can have that information. Now the word for thorns is coats, and it's a thorn bush, or a sense of pricking. Briars is barkam, and that's a briar patch, or another type of thorn. So, what can this be referring to? What do y'all think that you could refer this to? Why is he taking thorns and briars to teach the men of Sukkot? Now, y'all know what Sukkot is, right? Y'all know what that means, right? The booth or a dwelling place. So, he's using thorns and briars to teach the people of the house. So, why is he using thorns and briars to teach? Y'all got an idea? For the crown of thorns, come over here to 1 Corinthians chapter 12. No, not 1 Corinthians chapter 12. 2 Corinthians. You understand? 12 and 5. No, I'll make it 12 and 7. Unless I should be exalted above the measure through the abundance of the revelation that was given me a thorn in the flesh, the messenger of Hashatan to buffet me, lest I should be exalted above measure. For this thing I besought the Lord thrice, that it might depart from me. And he said unto me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Most gladly, therefore, I will rather esteem in my weaknesses, that the power of Mashiach may rest upon me. Therefore, I take pleasure in weaknesses, in reproaches, in necessities, in persecution, in distresses for Mashiach's sake. For when I am weak, then I am strong. So that means he said that he took a thorn. And the thorn was who? A messenger of the adversary. So now let's pause and let's look at this here. Do y'all know what Yahuwah uses to humble a man? I think I mentioned this to y'all a couple weeks ago. What does Yahuwah use to humble a man? He uses adversity, or he uses the weak. So that's why he says he teaches you with thorns and briars. What does Hebrews chapter 5 say that Mashiach was able to learn? Through the things that he what? Suffered. What was used for Yahushua to learn obedience? Thorns and briars. What did Paul tell us in 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 12? That all that live godly will suffer what? Persecution. So he uses thorns and briars to teach. So every single solitary person who comes to Mashiach, who was slain with him, would have to be taught with what? Thorns and briars. If you were going to be slain with him, you would have to be slain with him through the same thorns and briars that these elders sought and taught the men of the booth or the men of the house. Every man of the house will be taught with thorns and briars. Not thorns and briars of our own doing, but thorns and briars that Yahuwah uses to humble you. This is why he tells you not to despise the chastening of Yahuwah. This is why he tells you to buy the truth and sell it not, and also instruction or your chastening as well, because this is the only way that you can learn. Remember, his ways are not your ways, and his thoughts are not your thoughts. Because you don't think to teach someone through chastening, do you? You think that you should sit down and be nice like to him and teach him this and teach him that, but Yahuwah does not teach in this fashion. In order for you to serve him, he has to use thorns and briars to humble you. Because you know what happens when he humbles you? Who can tell me what occurs when Yahuwah humbles you? You only have one option. There's only one answer. You'll be obedient, but not only be obedient, you would know that you would have to look to your power, and he's the only one that you can rely on. That's why he tells you not to despise it nor resist it. Because when you despise it and resist it, then you desire to not be under his charge, that he may humble you, that you can give yourself over to him completely. Remember, what did we just read last week? What did Yahushua say on that stake? He said, "I've into your hands, I what? I commend, or I trust my breath." What he stated. That's Psalms 31 of what he was fulfilling. He trusted his breath to his father. See, if you don't trust your breath to your father, then you're not going to be willing to humble yourself under his hand. You will resist it and you will refuse it. You know what I'm saying? And this is why I always mention you have to look at how you look at your own parent, specifically your own father, and how your relationship is with him, and it can mirror how your relationship is with Yahuwah. Because if you don't have esteem and respect for your father, then it will be very hard for you to have esteem and respect for any man that walks the earth. This is, of course, we already know. This is why he told you to honor your father and mother to begin with. This is why he told you that to begin with. If you have disdain for your father, you can have disdain for your father in heaven. It'll be subconscious. It won't necessarily be a conscious thing. It could be subconscious. Because how you feel about him is how you may feel about male authority. You already know that we live in a society that seeks to destroy and decay male authority on every cut and corner. The same token when you see niggas around here happy, around here juvenile making a pure jackass out of himself, singing with this white man talking about back this vote up. Singer really did this here. Or you seeing Chuck D putting Flavor Flav out of Public Enemy because he said, I don't want to do a political show for Bernie Sanders. And when I mention this here is because they don't see a black man having the ability or power to solve their problems. So you're looking to another man to solve your problems who doesn't care about you. You know what a politician's job is, right? You know what a politician's supposed to do? Who knows what a politician is supposed to do? So they work for the people. But do politicians work for the people? No, they do not. There's no difference. What did Mashiach say? Those who preach the word, what they supposed to do? They for the work for the people. He said you are unprofitable servant, doing what it is that your duty to do. But that same dude that y'all mentioned about Jamal Bryant, talking about niggas burning sage, he been pimping people for decades. But a nigga don't care nothing about him pimping people for decades because he told you burning sage was demonic. So that brother teaches. I seen a sister say you got people who say yoga is demonic. Well, if you know the origins of yoga, you would know why you wouldn't fool with it. If you serve Yahuwah, because you don't know what you opening yourself up to. Is yoga doing yoga poses in itself inherently evil? No, it's not. But if you get in depth in it and you see where the origins of it come from, you might be disgusted. And say, you know what? I don't want anything to do with that. I'll pass. You know what I'm saying? You know, you want to be flexible, go do Pilates. You get the same benefit. Any of y'all, you look like you used to go to Pilates class. You look like you used to go with your white friends that you didn't want nobody to know you had. It's okay if you had white friends. You talking about, you looked up in the sky. You had white friends. Her name was Susie. I don't believe you. Everybody done had a white friend.
Elementary, I guess that was my friend.
I'm talking about grown.
Oh no, I know.
And you said that like that's offensive to you. Let me go ahead and rap. Well, I started a little bit. Let's go back to Judges chapter 9. Well, you capped out. Verse 17. He beat down, this is Judges chapter 9. He beat down the tower of Penuel and slew the men of the city. Then he said unto Zebah and Zalmunna, what manner of men were they whom you slew at Tabor? And they answered, as you are, so were they. Each one resembled the son of a king. He said, they were my brethren, even the sons of my mother. As Yahuwah lived, if you had saved them alive, I would not slay you. Oh no. What does that sound like to you? Listen to what he said. Verse 18 now. He says, then said unto Zebah and Zalmunna, what manner of men were they whom you slew at Tabor? And they answered, as you are, so were they. Each one resembled the son of a king. I'm going to get this word for resemble. The word is toar. Shape, form, outline, figure, appearance. You have tile, olive, and rock. It's very simple. All that you got right there is that Yahushua is the covenant of Yahuwah. And what his body was, because that takes us back to being conformed to his image. And everyone who was conformed to his image was predestinated to be conformed to his image. Because he said as he was, they were, and they resembled the son of a king. So when you were in the foundation of the world, and you were with him, you resemble a son of a king. Therefore, that he was slave, you were slave. And this allows you to be the stars than the firmaments of the heaven. But y'all we'll deal with that more on tomorrow. But let's continue. Then he says, they were my brethren, even the sons of my mother. As Yahuwah live, if you had saved them alive, I would not slay you. Now, what does that take us to when we deal with the book of Revelation? Number one, it should be easy. The son of my mother. Who is the mother? Jerusalem. So now, look at what the next thing he said. If you would have saved them alive, I would not have slayed you. In the book of Revelation, where do we find justification for what's stated here? If you would have saved them alive, I wouldn't have killed you. Well, let's take a look at Revelation chapter 12. Let's pick it up at 12 and 10, I suppose. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, come now is come salvation, strength, and the kingdom of our Elohim, and the power of his Mashiach. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our Elohim day and night. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb, and they loved and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto the death. In other places in Revelation, what did it state? Because a brother asked something about being a martyr. Y'all know what a martyr is, right? Who doesn't know what a martyr is? A martyr. They've made you false. They've given you false martyrs. They tried to say Tupac was a martyr. A martyr, he was not. Now they're trying to tell you Colin Kaepernick is a martyr. And if you believe Colin Kaepernick is a martyr, I got some waterfront property in the Sahara Desert that I can sell it. Because he's a lot of things, he's not a martyr. There's a brother in the video, he made a strong point. And I haven't told you this before. How many of y'all, they say them Kaepernick sneakers sold out, right? Y'all heard about that? How many niggas in the streets you done seen with them on? I ain't never seen a nigga with no Kaepernick shoes on. Now I'm gonna tell you this here. Do y'all know what record labels used to do in the 90s? Because I remember this back in the 90s. And they say that niggas do it with streams now. They buy their own records. And they buy their own streams. Just like Nike will buy their own shoes. Oh, you look confused. You don't think they do stuff like that?
Oh, no, I didn't know.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. So you think it. Like they'll have an artist and they'll buy like this is the thing they used to say back in the day. Oh, I ship gold. You know what that means when somebody say they ship gold? Do you know how many copies you got to sell to go gold? That's to go platinum. You got to sell 500,000 records to go gold. You got to sell 1 million records to go platinum. So when an artist in the 90s would say, I ship gold, that means they shipped 500,000 copies to the various record stores and CD stores that no longer exist. Because I don't think it's a CD store left in America. I'm serious. Is there one left in America? I don't know. Shit, I don't go in the mall. The mall's kind of past its prime as well. So what the record labels would do is they would buy 2, 3, 4, 500,000 copies of their own merchandise to say this artist sold this many records in a week to make them seem more popular than they are, to keep them in the public consciousness. But yet you never knew anybody who was riding around bumping this person's music. Now they telling you, just like they told you that Erykah Badu sold out of vagina incense. I don't believe nothing. You would have to actually know people who say, I got this. Like if something is selling like this and all these people got it, you would eventually hear or run into someone who has it. Now, if they sold all these Kaepernick shoes and Kaepernick t-shirts, why have you never seen a nigga in the street with them on? Because the shoes ain't number Air Force Ones with his nigga face on. That's all it is. It's just Air Force Ones with his face on. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, you ain't never seen a nigga with no Kaepernick shoes on. You don't even see a nigga walk around with a Kaepernick jersey. Yeah, because they were selling them. And then when he quit, they stopped selling them. But that's gain. That's a martyr is somebody who's a sacrifice for a cause. You know what I'm saying? Yahusha would be considered to be a martyr. Stephen would be considered to be a martyr. You know what I'm saying? Anyone who died for righteousness' sake would be considered to be a martyr. You know what I'm saying? But Colin Kaepernick is not a martyr. A martyr he is not. So that's the difference. So when you seek to serve Yahuwah and you lose your life, because what did Yahusha tell you? To take no thought for your life. Don't take no thought for what you're going to say. Because in the very hour, the Ruach will give you what you're going to say. He also told you that Satan will seek to cast some of you into prison, but be faithful even unto death. But let's take a trip back to Judges chapter 9. So when you look at that, if you would have saved them alive, I would have slayed you. Who slayed the sons of Elohim during this time? It would be the beast. And what does Yahusha do with the beast? It said he shall be taken without hand. That Yahusha will slay him with the sword of his mouth. Because if you would have known this, then you wouldn't have touched him. But since they were as I am and they resembled the son of a king, then I must slay you. Does that make sense? Let's go back to Job 38. So that's the understanding that we get from verse 4, excuse me. When he said, where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Declare if you have understanding. Who have laid the measure thereof, if you know, and who have stretched the line upon it? Whereupon are the foundations thereof fastened? Who laid the cornerstone thereof? When the morning stars sang together and all the sons of Elohim shouted for joy. When the day star, or when the sons of Elohim, as it stated, it just called them that. The sons of Elohim shouted for joy, or you rejoiced. The same way where we read in Jeremiah 33 that the sons of Elohim would rejoice because of being joined together with the bridegroom. And saying, praise Yahuwah of hosts, for he is good and his mercy endures forever. But let's take another trip to Hebrews chapter 1. But we finna wrap this up. We'll get to the crux of the matter on tomorrow. But we had to set the stage what would make you a star to be affixed in the firmament. To be a star fixed in the firmament, you have to be slayed the same way that he was slayed. Because you were slayed with him, and you will be slayed with him through thorns and briars. It's Hebrews chapter 1 and verse 5, if you will. Make it verse 4, if you will. Being made so much better than the Malachim as he had by inheritance obtained a more excellent name than they. Let me tell you something, right? The book tell you that if you overcome that, what will Yahusha do in regards to your name? He said he give you a name that no man knew except the man who gave it, to whom he gave it. Which means that the same way that Yahusha has a more excellent name than the angels, that you would have a more excellent name than them. Because you would be made after his image. One to which of the angels said he at any time, you are my son, this day have I begotten you. And again, I will be to him a father, and he shall be to me a son. And again, when he bring the first begotten into the world, he say, and let all the angels of Elohim worship him. Because, and he's about to mention it. Again, what are the angels for? What does the script describe them as being? Or they're servants to those who inherit salvation. That's their job. Because you a son of Elohim, they're there to serve you. That's what they were created for, to serve you. Saying what they were created to serve the Son. Because remember, if you overcome, you inherit all things. So if the son of Elohim has a more excellent name than the angels, then what would that make you if you become a son? You have the same more excellent name that he has. But how did he obtain that name? Well, we looked at various ways of how that name was attained. Number one, it was attained. That goes back to what we were looking at with Haman and Mordecai. What did he do with Esther and Mordecai? They used thorns and briars to teach them. And what did that cause all the people to do? To fast and submit themselves to you. And because of fasting and submission to Yahuwah, what occurred? Salvation of many. When you sit around and you look at the people coming to Jeremiah for intercession, or coming to Yahushua for intercession, or we looking at Judas being a whisperer and an accuser and an adversary at the same time, it's thorns and briars used. And what is being taught? But complete and utter submission to Yahuwah. This is why Yahushua tell you to take up your stake and follow him. And those who are not willing to forsake all that they have and take up their stake, they cannot be his disciples, because he cannot teach you, because you refuse to be taught by thorns and briars, because you refuse to humble yourself even unto death in order for him to instruct you. When you look at what he did after his resurrection, he instructed the people, instructed his apostles about that the whole book was about him. Well, how was he able to do that? Because of thorns and briars. There's no way that Yahuwah can be able to instruct you if you are not willing to humble yourself under his chastening. There's no way that's going to happen. And the only way that that can happen is because you trust in his, you trust your breath to him. And as we'll see on tomorrow, that when all of those things come to pass, and you become those stars that are fixed on that firmament, or on that vault, or on that base of support. Because not only were you slain with him from the foundation of the world, but you've also been supported by him from the foundation of the world, even in your ignorance. See, the text tells us in Hebrews that who can have compassion on him that is out of the way? See, there's difference when you know, but there's compassion when you don't know. That's why he said, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. When you know what you're doing, then he can have compassion. The compassion can be removed when you know better and you don't do better. But you have to submit yourself. See, you have to sit back and look at it. If you haven't fully submitted yourself, then have you actually even say that you entered into his covenant? You have to be willing to fully give yourself over. When you're willing to fully give yourself over, then you can begin to prosper in your way. But if you don't do that, there's no way that's going to happen. When we look at Yahushua's whole entire existence on this physical plane, it was completely given over to what his father wanted and not his own desires. His own desire was unimportant, because that didn't bring esteem to the person who son it. It didn't give esteem to the person who gave him power. It didn't give him esteem for whom he was created to serve from the beginning. You know that he was not created to serve no one but his father. That's what he was made for. He said, I didn't come down from heaven to do my own will, but the will of him that sent me. This is the difference between the mind of the be saved, or more importantly, the mind of a son of Elohim, or the mind of a bastard. Because the mind of a bastard is going to do what they want to do, irregardless of what their father said. Because they're more concerned about submitting to their own will. Therefore, they can never follow their father's instructions. Those who become the sons of Elohim will always submit to their father's will, irregardless of their own personal desires, and therefore they'll be able to be lifted up on high and receive a full reward in heaven. But hallelujah for Yahushua. Who are willing, we'll pick it up on tomorrow. We'll be at Murray Hill on tomorrow. Same regular time, Saturday afternoon. You who are willing, we'll pick it up Saturday night at about 8 o'clock and do it again. So just wait and consider. And you who are willing to the next time, because I know they very well could be famished.